Dilmun or Telmun was an ancient Semitic-speaking country mentioned throughout the history of Mesopotamia from the 3rd millennium BC onwards. It is regarded as one of the oldest civilizations in the Middle East. Based on textual evidence, it is located in the Persian Gulf on a trade route between Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley Civilization, close to the sea in two artesian springs. Dilmun was an important trading center which at the height of its power controlled the Persian Gulf trading routes. According to some modern theories, the Sumerians regarded Dilmun as a sacred place, though this is never stated in any known ancient text. Dilmun was mentioned by the Mesopotamians as a trade partner, a source of copper, and a trade entrepot. The scholarly consensus is that Dilmun encompassed Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the coastal regions of the eastern province of Saudi Arabia. This area is certainly what is meant by references to Dilmun among the lands conquered by King Sargon of Akkad and his descendants. It is often misreported that the Sumerians described Dilmun as a garden paradise in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Sumerian tale of the garden paradise of Dilmun may have been an inspiration for the Garden of Eden story. However, this is entirely modern speculation since the home of Utnapishtim is never indicated as Dilmun, nor does the name appear in any Gilgamesh literature. History. Dilmun was an important trading center from the late 4th millennium to 800 BC. At the height of her power, Dilmun controlled the Persian Gulf trading routes. Dilmun was very prosperous during the first 300 years of the 2nd millennium. Dilmun's commercial power began to decline between 1000 BC and 800 BC because piracy flourished in the Persian Gulf. In 600 BC, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and later the Persian Empire, ruled Dilmun. The Dilmun civilization was the center of commercial activities linking traditional agriculture of the land, then utterly fertile due to artesian wells that have dried since, and due to a much wetter climate, with maritime trade between diverse regions such as the Millennium and Mesopotamia. The Dilmun civilization is mentioned first in Sumerian cuneiform clay tablets dated to the late 3rd millennium BC, found in the temple of goddess Inanna, in the city of Uruk. The adjective Dilmun is used to describe a type of axe and one specific official. In addition, there are lists of rations of wool issued to people connected with Dilmun. One of the earliest inscriptions mentioning Dilmun is that of King Anansh of Lagash, found in a door socket. The ships of Dilmun brought him wood as tribute from foreign lands. Dilmun was mentioned in 2 letters dated to the reign of Bernabarish II, recovered from Nippur during the Kassite dynasty of Babylon. These letters were from a provincial official, Ili Pasra, in Dilmun to his friend Enlil-Kidini, the governor of Nippur. The names referred to are Akkadian. These letters and other documents hint at an administrative relationship between Dilmun and Babylon at the time. Following the collapse of the Kassite dynasty, Mesopotamian documents make no mention of Dilmun with the exception of Assyrian inscriptions dated to 1250 BC which proclaimed the Assyrian king to be king of Dilmun and Meluah, as well as Lower Sea and Upper Sea. Assyrian inscriptions recorded tribute from Dilmun. There are other Assyrian inscriptions during the 1st millennium BC indicating Assyrian sovereignty over Dilmun. One of the early sites discovered in Bahrain suggests that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, attacked northeast Arabia and captured the Bahrainian islands. The most recent reference to Dilmun came during the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Neo-Babylonian administrative records, dated 567 BC, stated that Dilmun was controlled by the king of Babylon. The name of Dilmun fell from use after the collapse of Babylon in 538 BC. The Persian Gulf types of circular, stamped seals known from Dilmun that appear at Lothal in Gujarat, India, India and Failaka, as well as in Mesopotamia, a convincing corroboration of the long-distance sea trade. What the commerce consisted of is less known. Timber and precious woods, ivory, lapis lazuli, gold, and luxury goods such as carnelian and glazed stone beads, pearls from the Persian Gulf, shell and bone inlays, were among the goods sent to Mesopotamia in exchange for silver, tin, woolen textiles, olive oil and grains. Copper ingots from Oman and bitumen which occurred naturally in Mesopotamia may have been exchanged for cotton textiles and domestic fowl, major products of the Indo region that are not native to Mesopotamia. Instances of all of these trade goods have been found. The importance of this trade is shown by the fact that the weights and measures used at Dilmun were in fact identical to those used by the Indus, and were not those used in southern Mesopotamia. In regard to copper mining and smelting, the al culture in Dalma in the United Arab Emirates, and Ibri in Oman were particularly important. Some Mediterranean vessels may have sailed directly to Mesopotamian ports, but by the Is and Lhasa period, Dilmun monopolized the trade. The Bahrain National Museum assesses that its golden age lasted California, 2200–1600 BC. Discoveries of ruins under the Persian Gulf may be of Dilmun. People, language and religion. The population was Semitic with an Amorite presence. They used the Sumerian cuneiform and spoke a language that was either an Akkadian dialect, close to it or greatly influenced by it. Dilmun's main deity was named Inak and his spouse was Panapa. Mythology. In the early epic Enmerkar and the Lord of Ararat, the main events, which center on Enmerkar's construction of the ziggurats in Uruk and Eridu, are described as taking place at a time before Dilmun had yet been settled. Dilmun, sometimes described as the place where the sun rises and the land of the living, is the scene of some versions of the Sumerian creation myth, and the place where the deified Sumerian hero of the flood, Utnapishtim, was taken by the gods to live forever. Thorkild Jacobson's translation of the Eridu Genesis calls it Mount Dilmun, which he locates as a far-away, half-mythical place. Dilmun is also described in the epic story of Enki and in her sagas the site at which the creation occurred. The later Babylonian Enuma Elish speaks of the creation site as the place where the mixture of salt water, personified as Tiamat, met and mingled with the fresh water of Abzu. Bahrain in Arabic means the twin waters, where the fresh water of the Arabian aquifer mingles with the salt waters of the Persian Gulf. The promise of Enkitan in her sag, the Earth Mother. For Dilmun, the land of my lady's heart, I will create long waterways, rivers and canals, whereby water will flow to quench the thirst of all beings and bring abundance to all that lives. Ninlil, the Sumerian goddess of air and south wind, had her home in Dilmun. However, it is also speculated that Gilgamesh had to pass through Mount Mashu to reach Dilmun in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is usually identified with the whole of the parallel Lebanon and anti-Lebanon ranges, with the narrow gap between these mountains constituting the tunnel. Location. Despite the scholarly consensus that ancient Dilmun encompasses three modern locations, the eastern littoral of Arabia from the vicinity of modern Kuwait to Bahrain, the island of Bahrain, the island of Failaka east of Kuwait, few researchers have taken into account the radically different geography of the basin represented by the Persian Gulf before its reflooding as sea levels rose about 6000 BCE. In 1987, Teresa Howard Carter proposed that Dilmun of this era might be a still unidentified tell near the Shat al-Arab between modern-day Kurna and Basra in modern-day Iraq. In favor of Howard Carter's proposal, it has been noted that this area does lie to the east of Sumer, and the river bank where Dilmun's maidens would have been accosted aligns with the Shat al-Arab, which is in the midst of marshes. The mouth of the rivers, where Dilmun was said to lie, is for her the union of the Tigris and Euphrates at Kurna. As of 2008, archaeologists have failed to find a site in existence during the time from 3300 BC to 556 BC, when Dilmun appears in texts. According to Hoshland, no settlements exist in the Gulf literal dating to 3300-2000 BC. Thus, in 2008, archaeologists failed to find a site for Dilmun dating to the time period in which Dilmun first appears in ancient texts. However, recently, it was discovered that in 2000 BC, Mesopotamians inhabited Failaka Island. Failaka had many Mesopotamian-style buildings typical of those found in Iraq, dating from around 2000 BC. Out of sight on the Bay of Kuwait, the model of a sailing craft has been discovered that has been dated to c. 4000 BC. According to Michael Rice, it is believed that the people of the ancient Gulf were the first to develop an ocean sailing craft. Garden of Eden theory. In 1922, Edward Glaser proposed that the Garden of Eden was located in eastern Arabia within the Dilmun civilization. Scholar Juris Zarins also believes that the Garden of Eden was situated in Dilmun at the head of the Persian Gulf, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers run into the sea. From his research on this area using information from many different sources, including Landsat images from space. In this theory, the Bible's Gihon would correspond with the Karen in Iran, and the Pishon River would correspond to the Wadi Batan river system that once drained the now dry, but once quite fertile central part of the Arabian Peninsula.